Okay, Mr. Brand, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, thank you for having me. I have a 20-year-old consulting practice that specializes in operational excellence and international standards. And we go into private sector companies and the U.S. government on a global basis and implement standards that meet these international criteria that deal with a whole variety of issues like quality, customer satisfaction, environmental management, occupational health and safety, social accountability. It's a very wide range of topics.
So criteria according to whichever market they're targeting.
It could be that, or it could be industry specific. For example, I was just having a conversation after our session with somebody that is in the apparel industry here in New York who has a major concern about whether or not clothing that's being supplied to some of the retailers is made with child labor. So there's a social accountability standard that deals with that would certify and ensure that that company in Bangladesh is not using child labor.
Okay. And that would be, so you obviously tailor your solution to whatever the client want and whatever the client's market is.
That's correct, yeah. And it is, in some cases, industry specific. There's automotive specific standards that we work with.
Emission with different countries.
That's right, and it could be a regional issue that's a big issue like environmental issues and things like that. So it really is whatever the client wants us to do. That's what we do.
What is like a typical or common issue right now?
Well, right now, I think it's efficiency, effectiveness, and saving money in this type of an economy.
Money, yes.
Yeah, and so one of our biggest things, we see this with a lot of our government clients, because the U.S. government and military is our largest client, is Lean Six Sigma practices, which was something that was championed by Jack Welch and the folks at GE and Motorola. And it basically takes a look at the lowest hanging fruit and analyzes the process and financially has to map out how they're going to save money and achieve perfection. And that's something that we do a lot of work right now with the military and with the Veterans Administration, the U.S. government, and the private sector.
In terms of this M&A space itself, are you optimistic about the landscape?
I am. I mean, I think that we've seen here in New York, because we're a New York-based company, we've seen the economy improve. I mean, it's not back where it was, and when the economy is improving, I think that you see more mergers and acquisitions and consolidations, and I see that growth, becoming more so maybe in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so what do you think it's going to happen between now and 2016?
That's a difficult question, but what I see for myself is I see my business expanding and doing a lot more work for the private equity area in terms of operational due diligence and after acquisition value enhancement services, where we go in and help out with the exit strategy.
Okay, in terms of due diligence, what do people overlook?
Well, I think they overlook what we do in its entirety. I don't think that private equity and M&A is focused on anything right now but maybe financial due diligence and some operational due diligence, but they're not focused on the risks associated with not having the standards effectively implemented that we work with, as well as the benefits. And so there's a lot of benefit, I think, probably after the financial due diligence process to bringing our firm or somebody like us in to assess the target company and see, is there a system in place? And if there isn't, maybe that's the value that you can add after you buy them.
When you said it's overlooked, can I assume there are very few consultants like you in your firm who does what you do?
There's a lot of sole practitioners in the United States, but there's very few firms. We have 60 people around the world, and I work on 6 continents, and I've worked in 35 countries. That's not the norm for what I do. And there are major corporations, your 3Ms and your Fords and people like that have people that have my qualifications internally. But an external company that can work with private equity, M&A, and things like that, that's not something that you see very often. And the big consulting firms, frankly, don't focus on what I do. They have other things that they do.
In terms of due diligence in general, what do you think are some of the most important aspects?
Well, since mine is so limited, I have to answer that in the context of what I know. So not having some sort of a management system that addresses issues such as quality, environmental management, or social accountability, to me, is a real negative. I wouldn't say it's a showstopper on the due diligence side, but it would make me wary of potential risks after I own something, that's for sure.
Like environmentalism, that's such a huge topic, especially for Main Street people.
Yes.
And everybody cares. Say, oh, does this company care about people?
Right.
Do you feel business leaders nowadays care about that?
Well,
that image, or
they do care about it because for one reason, it sells products or it doesn't sell products if you don't care about it. But one thing that is certainly, I've learned in my 20-year career is that there's a big difference between leaders and managers, and there's people that are in leadership and management positions that don't know anything about either one. And you really need, in order to have an effective system like the ones that I'm talking about that address these important issues, great leadership that is visionary and great managers that are effective and know what they're doing. And if you can find that, you hit a home run, because it's very hard to find that.
I feel whenever a private equity company looks for private equity firm looks for a company, they look at the management, they interview the management so many times as possible, and they're pretty much betting on the management team. How do you identify a good management?
That's a tough question. In my case, when I work with private companies and the government, I'm embedded in their organization for 12 to 24 months. So, I think that a lot of private equity firms, when you interview somebody, they're going to be putting on a dog and pony show, and you're not going to find out who those people
are.
Until after you've owned the company and it's too late. Whereas, with what I do, I know who the strong people are. I know who's, not really who they say they are, and who's really doing the work.
So when you are helping your clients to do these works, how do you balance confidentiality and information flow?
Right. Well, the client, which is the party that's retained me and paying me, is the party that gets the information. And that may not be the party that I'm working with. So if private equity hires me, that's who gets my information. On the other hand, if a private sector company hired me individually, that's who my client is, and that's who gets the information. And there is no divulging of any information outside of who the client is, unless they give you permission to do that.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.